This is the pastor's big brother, Jared.
Huh? Oh, well, in that case, this must be Dumbass the Pastor.
And you are listening to the Pastor with No Answers. Hey, man, Jared, that hurt, dude. I mean, I was just imitating being like you, but you didn't have to go there.
Then stop writing these stupid-ass scripts that I have to read.
Why don't you go to acting school then, man? Do a better job with it or something.
Whatever. Okay.
All right, well, we are... Jared, we're going to be seeing each other pretty soon.
Yep.
And before that, we are going to try to squeeze in 2 more episodes besides this one right here.
All right.
Where we're going to be talking about the refugee situation. Actually, we're going to be doing 3 more episodes after this. So we're going to have one coming up soon that's going to be on entertainment and basically Grand Theft Auto, 50 Shades of Grey, gangster rap, crazy DMX lyrics. The pastor that comes on, definitely somewhat of an uncomfortable conversation for him just because we're actually using the words and all that stuff, and I didn't mean to make him feel uncomfortable. But then we're actually going to have... let's see. Toby is going to defend his anti-sanctification theory with another pastor friend of mine. Basically, Toby doesn't think we get a whole lot better. And then we have Preston Sprinkle, author of a lot of good books out there. He co-wrote with Francis Chan, Erasing Hell, and just wrote a really good book on... gay marriage and that sort of thing. He is a complete 100% pacifist, and he is going to be arguing Christian pacifism. And I'm bringing on one of my bosses who actually worked at a plant that made nuclear weapons and stuff. So it will be a good, fun conversation. Jared, what can I get your girls for Christmas? What's like the cool thing these days?
They've reached that era of gift cards, believe it or not, already. Yeah. Like Emma.
Is it all iTunes?
No, like Emma's actually, my oldest daughter. She's actually into doing crafts. Like she has her own YouTube channel where she's making she's doing like DIY type craft activities. And she actually makes a video, and then she puts those out there. So she's really into like gift cards from like craft stores to buy more materials for her activities and projects. And then Caroline is into iTunes, obviously, and she also likes Jamba Juice and like food gift cards and stuff like that. So really, it's kind of weird how they're both really into this whole gift card idea. So. That's
pretty crazy, man.
Yeah,
Time flew by, my friend.
I know, man. It really
flown by.
Absolutely.
Like, here I am sitting with a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. The 3-year-old basically is out of diapers. So we have brought 4 kids into this world.
Yep.
We have had our hands on a lot of stinky diapers. We have wiped a lot of butts. And now, hey, you know what? I don't want to throw them under the bus, but... both of my sons will still say, "Dad, will you come in here and wipe my butt?" It seems like, dude, I stopped saying that at a much earlier age.
Oh,
I love my son William, but I'm pretty sure I was wiping my butt. But here's the thing, though, is I'll give him some credit. He definitely wipes his butt, but there are some of those poops, man. You just got to have someone else come in and wipe, man. I mean, if it was culture. No, but if it was culturally acceptable, maybe I would. Hey, you know what? This one's just going to be causing me trouble today. Hey, you know what's crazy is a friend of mine. Well, I'll just say his name. Toby made a really good point one time. He said that how crazy is it that when we wash our hands with soap and water. Our hands typically have dirt on them or bacteria that we can't see. When we poop, there's actual poop all over our butts, and we just use dry paper, and that's it. Like, that's really weird if you think about it. Very weird. So I'm kind of in this stage where I want wipes hanging around.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I do.
Oh, that's what you do, huh?
Yeah.
So you've been smart all through these years, and you couldn't let me into the wipe secret?
I thought that was like common sense.
No, man, I've been stuck with these dry toilet papers for all this time.
Yeah, so you may want to change that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Wipes
yeah.
are the way to go. A
Absolutely,
good friend of mine actually installed one of those deals where you're sitting there and you can like push a button and it rinses your butt.
Oh yeah, what's that called? Duvet or something? Is that what it's called?
Yep, I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
Sweet.
So yeah, we're going to be talking about poop and how to wipe your butt and all that stuff for the next 45 minutes. So yeah,
Yeehaw.
thank you for tuning in. All right, joining us are some friends. Yay! Toby Morrell.
World famous Toby Morrell.
Worldwide,
That's
baby.
how I go now.
Worldwide. And Mr. Matthew MacDonald.
Relatively unknown compared to Toby Morrell.
Oh, wow.
That's not
Is
true.
that props or fake humility?
His name is well known.
I wouldn't
in the clubs.
say I wouldn't say world famous, but
Hey, I might be world famous, but Matt MacDonald, like regionally, unreal fame.
regionally in the specific region of Everett, Washington, my family knows my name.
and just for our listening audience, we do these episodes 2 at a time, so Jared does not have a week-long kidney stone. If so, we'd probably be taking him to the hospital.
Jared has a kidney stone right now?
Yeah.
Jared.
I'm on some serious ibuprofen right now, baby.
I mean,
Serious
so
ibuprofen.
just being totally honest here, your body is exactly just as shitty as Joey's. Your body.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty
Lord. How big?
We got one messed up family, man.
Like when y'all get kidney stones, it seriously is. Wait, I feel a little bit of pain. Hopefully, it's not what I. Oh God, is that what it is?
Yeah, kind of. But
I know what it is, man. There's no
some,
mistaking
Well,
it.
I had some kidney stone pain 2 days ago, Sunday morning, and I was like, if this gets worse, I'm not going to be able to go to church. But sometimes it just doesn't get bad, and you can just go about
You
your
actually
business.
knew you had a kidney stone. You think?
I did have a kidney stone.
For sure, because you know what it feels like.
Yeah, there's just no doubt.
Lord.
See, I had a scan back in October, and I have a 6mm one, and my doctor said that if it gets to be 1 centimeter, then I have to use a stent when I do my lithotripsy. And I was like, hell no.
Jared,
So
it's
I'm
horrible.
getting it blasted. I know, I'm getting it blasted in January. And he said that really between October when I have my scan and January, he said there's like 0 chance it'll get that big. So I feel like, January I'm good to go. But if I let it go too much longer and it requires a stent, I'm going to be so pissed.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely getting it done in January.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so Toby and Matt, given that you guys are friends of ours, we're going to throw you guys into the lion's den. And
Well, also let's clarify.
Sure.
I'm filling in. We had a guy that was supposed to be on the podcast, and he bailed.
why are
Right.
you saying that?
Because I have not found out what the actual topic is yet. so
Toby's clearing his name.
I'm going to look super foolish, even more so.
So at this point, you don't know what's
right,
coming.
Right.
All right, cool. We'll keep it that way. All right, so our game is basically the I Can't Laugh game.
Okay.
So Toby gets the first challenge, and we may need a tiebreaker, but basically your goal is to talk about this subject for a full minute.
Okay.
And you have to answer this question no, and then explain for a full minute, and you can't stop and you can't laugh.
And if I laugh, I'm in trouble.
It just goes bam, and you're out.
Okay.
All right.
But y'all can laugh.
Oh yeah, we can
Okay,
laugh for
okay.
sure.
All
All
right.
right. So the question is, and you have to answer it no, and then you have to explain for a full minute. Is it wrong to lust after other women if they are younger and a good friend?
No. Booty got to drop. Booty got to drop. And I really want to explain this in more in depth. I want to explain it more in depth. Booty make the world go. Booty make the people know. And if you don't look, how do you know? And I'm all about education, baby. Every day of my life, I'm about education. Booty got to drop. World got to know. Show the world what you got so that they can learn.
Tell us for 30 more seconds.
Well, here's the thing. When I was a young man, strapping young lad. I was about 18 years old, and I saw a booty walking down the street, and I said to myself, I says, Toby, you can look away, but you've already seen. Make a decision. Make a damn decision. And you know what popped in my mind? Booty got a drop.
All right, 1 minute. You did it.
Wow, dude, that was amazing. Very impressive.
Just disclaimer here. I'm not going to let my wife listen to this podcast. That was all jokes.
All right. Matt, you up for the challenge?
I guess so.
Okay, you have to answer this question no and then explain for 1 minute. Is it a sin to kill if you hate that person and you would sleep better on that particular night?
Yes, it's a sin to kill anyone
You have to
for
answer
any
no.
reason.
You're terrible at this game.
This game sucks.
No, you are just terrible at it. I dominated, and you did terrible at it.
All right, let's see it.
So I'm laughing now, so I lost.
All right,
So
you
I have
lost.
to answer,
Jared,
right?
Jared, let's see if you can do it.
I wanted to take that one. It is not a sin to kill. You kill every you can.
All right, Jared, do you want to take this challenge?
I'll take the challenge.
This is a
All right.
terrible beginning for Pastor with no answers. A lot of bleeping. A lot of bleeping with pastors.
Yeah, I've definitely compromised this show on this episode.
Should not have invited me. Note to Joey: do not invite Toby
I
on
created the game.
last minute.
All right, Jared.
Yeah.
This is not a yes or no question.
I love this game, Joey. I'm sorry for Matt MacDonald. He ruined it. I was really having a good time. This is a very fun game.
All right, so Jared, you have to start this answer with, "Well, there is many." All right, you have to start your answer
Okay.
with saying, "Well, there are many." All right, Jared, what are appropriate times to shove your mom?
Jared, old man, immediately.
I'm sorry. I mean,
He can't even say one word
I'm
without.
sorry. I can't even say the phrase. Yeah, it's I suck at this game.
All right,
I'm sorry.
Toby. I'm going to throw this one at you, Toby. What are appropriate times to shove your mom against the wall?
Joey, there are many times to shove your mom right up against the damn wall. I mean, first of all, she can be a real asshole. You know how moms get. Oh, do this, do that, yeah. Wham! You handle it, right? I can't even do this one. I can't even do this. This game has ruined my marriage, my family, everything. Why do I have to be so damn good at this game? It's a curse.
Lord, help us, forgive us, take us into the next minute. All right, so we're talking about the refugee crisis, Toby.
Oh, I love the Fugees. We're talking about Lauryn Hill.
So let's just dive right the heck in. And the first question that I want to ask, Jared, why don't you give kind of a snapshot picture of what we're even discussing, and then we'll give Toby and or Matt an opportunity to say, whoa, hold on, let's throw this in here too. This is something that we need to consider. But what is the topic that we're considering here?
We're talking about the refugee crisis. These are Syrian refugees, and they are seeking refuge. And there are many different things that are happening that's really ramping the situation up. And Toby would be delighted to know that I actually got this information from the Huffington
Wow.
Post.
Nice.
All right.
Yes.
Do we know?
All right.
Why are they leaving Syria? Do we have an answer? To
Well, yeah. So basically, what's happening is there's a lot of regime changes in Syria. So it's a war-torn country at this point. The war's not getting any better. So the refugees have been going to Turkey, but Turkey is not really having it too much anymore. There's a lot of political turmoil. There's a lot of they're becoming less and less receptive to the refugees.
Yeah.
Also, Syrians are not allowed to work in Turkey legally, so they're trying to find other places to go. And so they're looking for places in Europe. They're looking to America, and also the UN refugee camps that are being run in Jordan, Turkey, and Lebanon for the Syrians. Their funding is starting to run dry. So that's also kind of contributing to the problem.
So they want to come to our country, the United States of America,
Yes.
and I mean, Europe is on the table for discussion too, right? Aren't they trying to go to Europe as well? I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right,
and in fact, a lot of them went to France.
gotcha.
And Syria is in Mexico, right?
All right, so it is.
I like their satellite radio.
And their nachos. Syrian nachos are some of my favorite. I love that stuff. And their cell phones.
So the question basically is, as Christians, should we be pro let them in? Hey, they want to come here. This is the land of the free, home of the brave. This country is founded on Christian principles. A Christian principle would be, let our neighbors in. They need shelter. They need safety. They need refuge. Is this a black and white issue for the Christian to think through, and obviously which way?
This sounds like a perfect time for Matt MacDonald to lay it out for us.
Oh, all right. Well, I think it's hard for American Christians to sort this out because I don't think a lot of people understand what the situation is. And I think a lot of our Christianity is tied in with our nationalistic agenda, which is kind of naturally anti-refugee because it's motivated by fear. It's about defining the in-group and the out-group, us from them, and valuing the lives of people in our own nation over the lives of those in other countries. And it's about protecting our borders and making America great and all that. But so it makes it really hard for, I think, just an average American Christian to understand what's going on because there's so much spin in the media. And then also, what does Jesus say about this type of situation, and how do we follow Jesus, and how do we separate kind of the political leanings or just our natural nationalistic ideologies from what Jesus taught? And so, I think it's difficult for a lot of people. I don't think it's as cut and dry, but obviously people polarize and they end up on either side of it, listening to whatever talk show or news agency, which is usually slinging fear. It doesn't matter if it's MSNBC or Fox; they're all slinging fear. So it's hard to kind of get a cognitive approach and one that's devoid of the fear emotion, which can really make it hard to think through.
So is this a black and white issue for Matt MacDonald?
Well, for me, I think an anti-refugee approach, just as a base approach, is completely inconsistent with Christianity, namely the agenda that Jesus stood for, where the outsider is in fact the insider, the outsider is your neighbor, and we are to love our neighbors as ourselves. So it's evidenced perfectly, I think, in the parable of the Good Samaritan. Jesus is sitting there talking to the Jews of the day, which were a very nationalistic people, hopeful for a warring Messiah to overthrow Rome and make Israel great again. Sounds a little bit like Donald Trump, but that's kind of what they were hoping for. And Jesus came and said something quite the opposite. And he often highlighted the outsiders or the pagans or the people of the wrong religion as being correct and included and not excluded from his kingdom. And I think the Good Samaritan was probably the best story, I think, as it applies to the refugee crisis. A lawyer came to Jesus, says, what can I do to have everlasting life or eternal life? And Jesus says, what's written in the law? And he says, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind, and love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus says, well, that's correct. Do it and you will live. And the guy goes, desiring to justify himself, says, who is my neighbor? And Jesus describes exactly with this story who your neighbor is, basically by saying a certain man was going to Jerusalem, from Jerusalem to Jericho. So a Jewish man fell among robbers, was stripped and beaten, left half dead. And then there's a priest going past him, and the priest is a holy man, a man of right belief and right standing and right religion, and he crosses the street and passes by on the other side. And then in the same way, a Levite, who is one of Israel's elite religious people, he comes and sees the guy on the side of the road dying, and he passes by on the other side. But a certain Samaritan, who is someone of the wrong belief, an outsider, you can actually probably, to relate it to today's news, call the Samaritan a Muslim. So why don't we just say a certain Muslim, as he traveled, came to where this guy was. When he saw him, was moved with compassion, came to him, and bound up his wounds, pouring oil and wine. And as you know, the story goes, he takes him to the inn and says, "I'll pay whatever to fix this guy up."
Yeah.
And Jesus goes to this lawyer who's testing Jesus. "Now, which of these three do you think seemed to be a neighbor to him who fell among the robbers?" And the lawyer says, "He who showed mercy on him." And Jesus said to him, "Go and do likewise." So Jesus is saying the guy who shows mercy is the neighbor. And Jesus says very specifically to love your neighbor as yourself. So people go, well, these Syrians, these refugees, they're not our neighbors. They're the other. They're the outside, the out group. And so we don't actually owe them anything. We just owe ourselves and our own nation. We need to protect our own liberty and all this. But in reality, as a Christian, Jesus is saying the outsider is your neighbor. This Jewish man who was falling on the side of the street was an outsider to the Samaritan. And Jesus even flips the whole thing on his head. It wasn't like a Jewish man reaching out to a Samaritan. He was saying the guys on the outside can be good. And so, I mean, it's just a genius parable, but I think it applies quite fittingly to this this situation where a lot of folks are saying there's a risk here. They could be terrorists, blah, blah, blah. There's always a risk when you take a step out and love somebody the way that Jesus would want you to love them.
Well, let me.
And I think.
Let me
go ahead.
Yeah. So with the example that you're using, I certainly agree that applies to us as individuals, but is Jesus saying? I mean, can we apply that to a country? I mean, can we apply that to a government? And I would liken that to, as Christians, I don't think we should be super jazzed or super zealous about legislating morality. We're a country that is a hybrid of all sorts of different religions, lack of religions, and so we shouldn't necessarily think, okay, our Christian agenda is what needs to be voted on. Well, we can vote on it because it's a democracy, but we shouldn't say this is how it has to be because this is our I would say, I could go into a bunch of examples, but wouldn't that would be my next question is, as a Christian, can I just say, look, my responsibility is to take care of needy people, but I'm going to let the government do what the government needs to do and kind of stay out of it. Does that make sense?
Jared and I don't get to answer the first question about black and white.
You can.
Jared, did you have something really compelling to say?
I don't see it as necessarily black. I mean, I guess, okay, look, I see it as black and white in the sense that I think clearly the Bible compels us as Christians to take care of our neighbor. And I think you'd be hard-pressed to say these guys are not our neighbors. But I do get the fear, especially in light of what happened in Paris. So that would be my one caveat. I mean, I think that it's entirely reasonable to have these refugees come to America, and before they're let loose, they're vetted to make sure they're not terrorists. But I think that would be an easy compromise. So for me, it is black and white, yeah.
So it is black and white to take care of them.
I think so, yeah. I just don't see a compelling reason not to.
Okay, I'm gonna, since I didn't know anything about this topic, I'm looking up a few things here, and it's interesting to me. So when you say the Paris, I actually think I did read something where Syrian refugees came into France, and I think one of the people that was a part of the Paris attack came in through Syrian refugees was ISIS. Yeah,
but
right?
I think also in France though it's just a steady influx of Muslims from all over the Middle East.
Right. So what they're saying is that the scary thing about the Syrians is not that anybody doesn't want to necessarily help them. That's not the issue. The issue is, what if we let in ISIS or jihadists or whatever that will eventually do some kind of sales and attack and kill people, right? And you'll regret it. Now, at the same time, I think, well, I mean, there's tons of things that kills people, and so if love ends up killing you, at least that was better than you texting while you're driving. You know what I mean? But the other thing is, I wonder, like, for example, imagine it's like, 1940 something, and like thousands upon thousands of Germans say, hey, seriously, we just want to get out of Germany. It's too crazy. Hitler's crazy. Let us come. And you go, well, what if some of those are Nazis or something like that, and they're trying to plan something to get us from the inside or something like that? You know what I mean? Like, What if, like, you're like, wait, they're German though. They're not. Most of them for sure are great people and smart and intellectual, and you're sitting there going, wait, we're fighting a war right now against Nazis because Nazis are terrible and awful and trying to take over the world and kill Jews and kill whoever gets in their way. And then here's, several thousand, maybe hundreds of thousands of Germans that want to come into the country and say, hey, seriously, just let us in. And you're like, wait, what if we're letting in people that are going to hurt us?
Right.
Too. So I kind of agree with you, Jared. To me, I don't think it's as black and white. I think it's black and white. You help people. I think there probably has to be a process, and maybe that's okay. Maybe the process is slow. Maybe we go, okay, this is the way we have to do it to be safe and protect people. At the same time, though, yeah, of course. I think Matt MacDonald made a ton of great points. Like, what would Jesus do? He probably wouldn't be as concerned about his life. He'd be concerned about other people's life, and that's pretty black and white as well. So I think for me, I would say there are things that are black and white. Put them all together, it gets really jumbled, and so I don't know where I'm at. It gets somewhat scary if all of a sudden there's a bunch of people from another country that are your next door neighbors, and what if somebody's a crazy person?
Yeah.
But I live in America where maybe my next door neighbor right now is crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That doesn't mean anything.
So okay, so
does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
It makes sense. Yep.
So I would say for me, then I have to say, in the context of this conversation, I'm talking from a standpoint that I think Christians, we need to be careful of expecting our country's government to operate like Jesus. So in other words, I don't necessarily, I'm not holding our government to a Jesus standard. Again, I can vote for the Jesus standard, but I don't need to be thinking, man, our country is jacked up because they're not operating as Jesus does. I mean, that would be a world of trouble if I lived in another country that.
I think, Joey, I'm speaking more individually. I'm not saying policy wise. We need our government to love on refugees or whatever. What I'm saying is, if our government's agreed to allow 10,000 refugees that are in crisis, that are starving, that are fleeing a conflict and violence, into our country, then it is our responsibility as Christians to welcome them into our cities and our towns and our homes and our schools, and show them what Christ-like hospitality is. And that's a thing I think that will really prove to a lot of the Muslim world, which is, as we know, half the world almost, that we're not a country that just drops bombs, but we're a country that is a refuge for oppressed people, and that we are founded on values that people can flee to us and seek liberty and the pursuit of happiness. And if we welcome those people with open arms, that's what deflates radical Islam. That's what deflates terrorism.
Yep.
Is radical Islam and terrorism grows most effectively when a bunch of people's backs are against the wall and we're dropping bombs in their neighborhood. People want to rally and fight something, and we're the big great evil. And wouldn't it be nice for once for us to not drop bombs and instead accept these men, women, and children who are seeking asylum into our country, and as communities and neighborhoods and churches and people reach out to them and come alongside them and help them out? I just think that would be the most Christian thing to do.
But now we agree, though, we agree that loving these people, I mean, it's not going to stop radical Islam. I mean, because radical Islam, they think kill people no matter what.
But one thing is, he's right in the fact that if we turn down these refugees, that's actually a way for ISIS and other terrorist groups to recruit more people.
Right.
They're more pissed off at us. So it kind of deflates that a little bit. And also, please realize, too, that this is actually current policy. Our policy is to accept refugees.
Right.
So what's happening is you have state governors saying, not in my state, not in my state.
Right.
So that's really the debate. It's like individual states are saying no, but the federal government is saying yes.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's a list of a lot of governors, I just read about it, that are saying, no, you can't come into my country, into my state, and they're sending letters to Obama saying you got to stop this and you can't do it. And that's when it really gets, that's when I see the real heart of this is it's kind of just political. You know what I mean? Like, it is kind of like your
Yeah.
constituency
Yeah.
says no. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, seriously, like, I live in a part of the country where this is probably a normal quote. They gonna come in here and they gonna turn us all Muslim. They gonna kill you.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's what it's gonna be.
And the governor is like, not on my watch.
Yeah, not on my watch.
So he's
I ain't
totally
gonna let,
exactly.
And that's missing the point. And the big thing is, this is where I get really kind of sad. Is this is a real situation that probably really we all need to, as a country, come together, and regardless of our beliefs and all this stuff, go just as humans. Hey, man, there's some humans that are really hurting here.
Right.
Just like Jared was telling us, Syria sounds like a really bad place to live, and especially if you're a dad and a wife and got a couple kids, and you're just like, what in the world are you trying to do? And you heard your whole life how awesome America is, and it's free, the land of the free and all that stuff. And what's really sad is, probably 2 weeks from now, nobody's even going to be thinking about this. And maybe they'll get in, and maybe they won't, but it'll just kind of go away. That's what bums me out the most is, this is such a serious issue, and even somebody like, I'm starting with myself, like I don't know if I am informed enough or care enough to be informed enough. That's what sucks.
Yeah, I mean, so here's how I would apply it to me in a practical way. Like my Priscilla and I, we would consider adopting a kid, but we have discussed that right now, we would not adopt an older kid.
From Syria.
Just in general. So
Any other country.
Right. So we wouldn't adopt an older kid, and that's because we wouldn't want to invite any sort of mentally unstable kid that could do something to our kids who's our responsibility.
Right.
God has given us 4 kids to take care of. And so unless God made it very clear, hey, you are to adopt this 15-year-old kid who's lived in an orphanage his whole life, we're just not going to do that. We're going to adopt a baby or adopt even a 2 or 3-year-old, someone that's younger than our family. Should we be sympathetic to people that say, man, we just can't take these refugees? Now, I think the 4 of us pretty much agree. I think we all feel like as Christians, we need to welcome these people. We would all probably even lean towards, hey, let's be a country that lets these people in and takes care of them. But shouldn't we understand where people are coming from when they say, guys, we have to take care of our country? Like, wouldn't you say if we take this to an extreme, I mean, United States would eventually crumble. Like if we had 0 regulations, anyone could come in at any time, just, hey, everybody, let's just come on, no citizenship, nothing, no regulations at all. I mean, we couldn't last, right?
Well, yeah, people need social security numbers, and we need to track them, and we need to make sure that we can discover their criminal history, and there's basic things that happen in a refugee process, and it is long, and it's actually a lot easier to get a travel visa and travel to the United States than it is to be a refugee and gain asylum. And so if anybody really wanted to do a terror attack, they could get into our country. Daesh or ISIS, they have billions of dollars. They can forge travel documents and get people into our country. So it's not a matter of having people in our country that are potentially violent. To speak nothing of the fact that we have plenty of Americans who are extremely violent just within our own borders.
Right.
But
that's a good point.
The thing too is that I just think when you take a step back and you see the whole picture, what I see is 2 groups. One group is motivated by fear, and one group is motivated by love. And obviously there are some tribal trappings too. Obviously the progressive liberals are kind of bleeding heart, and their tribe says one thing, and they're always going to repeat that tribe with a sense of superiority. They'll repeat the rhetoric and the mantras and whatever. And the conservative or libertarians are like, not our problem. They're not ours, and they're going to repeat their mantras and their rhetoric and everything. But the thing that I see though is that anytime you're motivated by fear, you can't also be motivated by love. It's like you have to choose one or the other. And as Christians, the word Jesus spoke most often were things like fear not, be not afraid. You see it constantly through the Gospels. Jesus clearly does not want us to be motivated by fear. And when fear is your motivation for decision making, you're acting within what Jesus would call the kingdom of this world. terrorists are motivated by our fear, by spreading fear to us. That's what terrorism is. They want us to live in terror. But when your actions are motivated by love, you're acting within the realm of what Jesus calls the kingdom of heaven. And as 1 John says, there is no fear in love. Perfect love casts out all fear. And it just seems that you can't have both. There really isn't a tempered approach. I mean, obviously, there's a refugee process to make them allowed to live here and be active, functional citizens with a record. But the idea that like we shouldn't have them here because we need to protect our own is a fear-based idea.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I mean, I think you're making some really good points. So,
What the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. You got to kill them. They're going to kill you, Matt.
so we have Matt MacDonald, Toby Morrell, and Bessie Smith.
No, Travis.
Oh, that was a dude. All right, so all right, Toby, you show up at church Sunday, and I basically I give you this look. I'm like, man, you're not going to believe what I'm going to tell everybody. And you're like, dude, what's going on? I make an announcement. I said, look, at Charleston Harbor, I mean, there literally 3,000 Syrians that came to Charleston, and they contacted all the pastors, and we have got to figure this out. We got to figure it out right now. I need everyone to step up to the plate in this church, and 2 Syrians per household. We've got to find a place for these people to go. We've got to feed them and all that stuff. Would you say, okay, yeah, that's our responsibility. We need to do that.
Huh. I would.
So in your house.
Yeah, I would. Well, I mean, nah, I guess I probably wouldn't. Not immediately. I know I'm just being honest. Now, what I would do immediately.
But you would be motivated by fear, right?
Well, I don't. That would be weird if you said that about anybody. If you said, "Hey, there's 3,000 homeless people, and you got to put them in your house right now," or "There's 3,000."
That's right. You don't even
there's
let
3,000 pastors.
You don't even let your mom.
If there's 3,000 pastors at Charleston Harbor, and we got to, I don't trust them either. So I think letting any kind of body into my house, I'd have to take some time to think that through. What I would immediately do is use my resources to help get them in hotels, help try and find housing and stuff like that for sure. In my house, it would be intimidating, and I would have what I would say my first immediate reaction would be, I can't yet. I need to think this through, talk to my wife, see what our life looks like. What could this be? Because that's not anything normal. Like, that's not a normal thing for us to have people come stay at our house.
So Matt,
isn't.
Matt, how do you respond to that? Would you say Toby's being smart, or he's being motivated by fear?
No, I think Toby's being Toby. But not in a bad way or anything. That's just absolutely brilliant. Yeah, well thought.
Go ahead, let them in your house. They're gonna kill you. Thank you, Travis.
I just think the idea is so much more fearful or scary than the reality. If you went down to the docks and you saw those people and the women with the children, and there was a family and a mom and a daughter, and the husband was, you learn their story, and the husband was killed by ISIS, and they're just looking for refuge. I mean, your heart might break for them, and you might just change your mind. I mean, the idea of it just hypothetically or out there theoretically, there's not a heart connection there. But I think most people would be noble and take them into their house. And I don't know. I grew up with exchange students who didn't speak a lick of English, and I thought it was cool. And my mom was always open arms, open doors to anybody who wants to come into our house.
And your mom and dad is still living?
I just think
they're still alive.
Yeah, they did not die. The exchange
they were
students
killed
did
by
not
the
kill
exchange
us.
students.
We actually
Terrible story.
we killed a few exchange students. They never made it home, but no, I think I would obviously, I would do all the right thinking and praying and talking with my wife about it. But I think that I would be excited about that journey and what that might look like. And it's kind of addicting. Generosity, it spreads. And I think when you have a community where one person goes, you know what, we're going to do it, you can see that kind of spreads throughout other people, and other people realize they're living for something bigger than just their own lives and their own success. And I think that kind of thing, that kind of generosity spreads. And I was just even thinking, what if we were, as a country, unified and generous to these refugees and helping them get back on our feet? I think we would treat our own homeless better. I think we would treat our own poor and our own sort of outcasts better, because I think that kind of behavior is, I don't know, I think it spreads, and I think it gets into culture, and I don't know. I just think the whole excuse, well, we have our own problems, we got our own people we got to take care of. Well, we're currently not. So why don't we rally around these people and see if that might motivate us to care a little bit about the things that matter more so than Cyber Monday shopping.
Yeah, for real. Jared, how would you handle this situation that I think Matt made a really good point? It's hard to connect with on a heart level, but just right off, I mean, you've got a family you're taking care of, and you're presented with this opportunity to serve, but they're strangers. And I think Toby made a good point too. It's not Syrian foreigners. We're just talking strangers.
I think the other thing too,
Yeah, I mean,
real quick, sorry, Jared, is to realize that MacDonald has a bigger house than me, so he has places to store their missiles and their machine guns and all that stuff. When they come in, where do we put this? Where do we put that? He's got places to put those things away. Go ahead, Jared.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, to me, it's less black and white. When it's more personal like that. Me personally, I'm with Matt. I think I would enjoy the experience, but I share my house with 3 others, and I'm not gonna put my wife in that position if she's not into it.
Right.
But from a personal standpoint, I think that would be kind of a cool thing. I like to know their story, to find out who they are. I wouldn't have any fear. Like, I don't think I'm gonna wake up the next day and my kids are all killed because of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wouldn't really be fear. It'd just be not putting my family in that position if they don't want to be in that position.
Yeah.
That would be my one caveat.
I feel like I'm just trying to be honest and keep it real, though, because I mean, seriously, how many homeless people in America right now have I let live with me, or how many single moms with 2 kids that are struggling have I said move in at our house?
Right.
I mean, how many of any of us done that with? And all I'm saying, but what I'm saying is it sounds good, but I think in the moment I would want to help, but I would just have to be honest and say I don't know in the first place letting a stranger, like I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that looks like across the board. Anybody, refugee, American, whatever it is, neighbor, that stuff is intimidating to me for sure. But it is the right thing to do. And my family, seriously, I mean, my family never let anybody in our house. My mom and dad were very secluded. They didn't even let friends come over and spend the night. I don't think a friend ever even came over and spent the night.
Me and Jared's dad shot people who just stepped on the property.
Right.
I mean, much less step inside the house. All right, so let's
get off my lawn.
So let's take some steps back now. Let's wrap this conversation up by talking about the country and the divide that we have, just as far as some people think, no, man, we should not be letting these people in. And then other folks say, no, we should. Is it a good conversation? Or I guess what I'm trying to say is, should we have patience for the opposing side, or do we see it as this is just insane? Like how in the world could, because I think all of us lean more towards, as Matt says, Jesus's approach. I think we all lean towards that. Do we see the logic behind people that are just like, no, we can't do that? Matt, our friend Matt Carter had on his Break It Down podcast, he talked to a handful of people about this conversation specifically, and one of the guys was just, oh my gosh, ultra conservative, just the complete opposite
like
of,
a nationalist
of Seattle. Yeah. And basically takes the standpoint of, hey, the country's government's sole or one of our primary responsibilities is to keep people safe. If people want to come into our country for safety, that's their bad. They need to figure that out in their country. We have to protect our own. We would all disagree with that, but do we understand where he's coming from?
I understand where he's coming from, but I think the problem is a lot of this, I think Toby made reference to this a few minutes ago, is that a lot of this is going to be used as political capital. And that's where I really find it repulsive. So for an individual person to have, a little bit of fear and they want to protect their family, I totally get that. I sympathize. I'm patient with. But when you have these leaders, these state governors who are using it for political capital, that's where I have no patience, and I find it to be disgusting.
Yeah, I think we can. Here's the thing. I think if somebody is just saying, "Yeah, that's their problem," that's messed up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like seriously, these are human beings, and we do have to care. We are called to care, and I think even take faith or God or Christianity or religion out of it. I think just as a human, you go, man, if I was in that situation, that would be terrible.
Right.
I mean, we gotta help them.
I agree with you, but in his defense, he's saying that because he's saying our primary first responsibility is to be good stewards of these people here in America that we fought for their protection and stuff.
Well, that's where I think Matt MacDonald's point just rings really true to me of, hey, if you love people, that does defeat anger and hate and all that. I mean, that really does work. I think you might be right. You're never going to get rid of evil.
Right.
Or you're never going to get rid of maybe terrorism or whatever it might be. But I do think like it does say something to the integrity of our country if we go, hey, this is dangerous and we're humans and we want to be humane to you. That speaks super loudly to people.
Yeah.
Like if the people that hate you and are people that are trying to recruit and tell other people to hate you, and you go, nah, come on, this is we might take a hit and it's going to be really bad. And it will be, and maybe it will be. I mean, regardless of if we let Syrian refugees in, there's going to be other terrorist attacks. There's going to be other bad things that happen. Yeah. So I think I really like that Matt said that seriously, love really is a big voice that makes people care more. But the big thing too is, why not just, what's the big hoopla? Why can't we just give them like Nebraska? Nobody gives a damn about Nebraska. Nobody's there. You can have it. Have all you want, whatever you want. There's a town literally right now at the end of South Dakota. The whole town's selling for $250,000. Just give it to them. We don't care. Let's all chip in, buy Nebraska. How much is it?
$300,000. We'll do an Indiegogo crowdfund.
Nebraska Indiegogo. We'll buy it. Give it to these Syrian refugees.
So Matt, I was gonna go Christianese on us and joke around, but I'll just save that verbiage. But you definitely have stretched me, and I think it's not like I'm leaving this conversation changing my mind on the issue. I think I pretty much agree with you guys, but I have realized just how easy it is to be run by fear. And for me, here's where the fear starts: my family. That's it. When I think about my kids' lives being in jeopardy and my kids' safety being threatened and my wife, that's when fear starts to surface, and that doesn't make it right. That means that my family is in a position of perhaps we can just call it idol worship. But when it comes to me, like if I was a single dude that didn't have any responsibility for a family, no kids, no wife, I'd be like, yo, whatever. I'm not afraid of attacks or something like that. But I think when I think about my family, that's when it really starts to become tricky.
Sure, but and then the fear disallows you to think rationally about it. Right. You can't think rationally when you're living in fear. Statistically speaking, if you're going to look at rationally look at terrorism, and you take the fear out of it, you're more likely to die in a car accident, or by an accidental gun death, or by drowning, or by choking on your food than you are by a terrorist. Your whole family is more likely to die driving to school one morning than by a terrorist. Yeah. So if you just think rationally about it, even with refugees, I mean, we've had multiple refugee crises. We've taken them into our country multiple times, and they've 99% of the time responded with incredible gratitude and made our country even stronger. And that's what our country's built on. So the idea that one of these people might be a terrorist and that terrorist might get you isn't rational, because you're more likely to choke on your dinner tonight and die than a terrorist getting you. And terrorism feeds on fear and violence, and the way to defeat it is to be not afraid and welcome the outsiders who need our assistance.
I think you made
like it.
a good point too. I'm glad that you brought that up because I didn't know that. Like seriously, it is a hyped up fear. It's almost like a faux fear that is being used to manipulate people because terrorists can get in the country regardless of the Syrian refugees. You know what I mean? They're using that like, hey, don't let these people in because you might get killed or there might be just like Paris or something like that, which isn't totally the truth because you're right. There's way other ways. If terrorists are going to get us, they have other ways. You're right. They have billions of dollars. Like ICE, like loaded, rich, has tons of resources. So, I mean, they can figure it out. If they want to do something bad to us, they'll figure it out. And so,
Right.
I mean, like it's a little bit of a faux fear, and it's hyped up going, hey, we can't do this because you might die or your family's in trouble. That's a little bit just to get you to feel that way so that you vote or go with
you
the
shut down. You shut down your rational mind
Right,
and you stop
exactly.
thinking logically about it.
Right, exactly. Because you're right. I mean, seriously, way more people are going to die texting. I mean, texting and driving is real bad.
Right.
Real bad.
Right. That's weird how you do
Yeah.
it all the time.
I want to say something, but I'm not going to say it.
You're a terrorist, Toby.
Joe, I can say
You
that.
could kill people.
I'll say this
You're
because
driving a missile down the road.
I'll say this because
Texting.
Joey will delete it. I dropped off Ruby at school the other day, and I'm driving to work, and I stop at a stop sign. I look over, and I see Priscilla with, like, the kids in the van, and then the light turns green, and she drives, and she pulls up her phone, like, almost straight in front of her face and drives on by. And I was like, good Lord. That is a mom who loves her kids. Man, whatever she's doing, just looking at the phone, and I was like, oh, my Lord. And I thought, oh, yeah, I said, it's just, stuff doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Like seriously, like obviously, you know, we would all be against drunk driving or whatever, but like texting and driving, you go, you know,
I've done
but
the same thing.
I
and
know, I have too. That's what I'm saying.
I've actually told our oldest daughter, I said, Rosa, you have my permission to call me out anytime I'm on my phone while I'm driving. And
Yep.
she took us up on it. So awesome. Well, thank you guys.
Well,
He had some more to say.
Was that an echo or did
no,
somebody
I
say
don't.
something? No, go.
No, I don't.
You
I
don't?
was gonna say I set my fantasy lineup in 3 leagues today while I was driving. Successfully.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm a hypocrite.
Wow.
I'm a total hypocrite.
Oh, man.
It gets us all. Hey, texting and driving gets us all. It's just so fun.
Yeah.
Isn't that what a world we live in where I mean, seriously, we're talking about a real issue, people dying, trying to get out of this country, this terrible, coming to our country, but we have gotten to a point where driving is boring. We have to play a game or do something with our phone because driving is boring
Oh,
to
my
us
gosh.
now.
Well, what about going to the bathroom? We'll
Oh.
never do that.
I went to
bored.
the bathroom the other day without my phone. I had no clue what to do. I was like, I don't even know if I can go.
It just wouldn't come out
Yeah, I
either.
was just like, my
Yeah.
body was so used to like, what are you doing?
Hey,
Your sphincter just tightened up.
hey, Priscilla did get in a car accident, and she's in ICU.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Can you pray for us? Hey, you have to answer this question. No. Your wife just got into a car accident. Will you pray for her?
Will I pray for her?
This is the game.
No.
This is the game.
Oh.
You have to say no.
Oh,
And without laughing.
for a whole minute?
No, I don't want to play that game.
Okay.
Let's be done. Your
right.
game made me feel terrible about myself. That
You
I could pull that off.
You sure had glistening in your eyes.
I was
and-
enjoying it, and I realized how evil I am. Come on, Syrian refugees from my house so I can make it to heaven. Just send them home. I'm not going to get in. I'll take some. Good Lord.
Thanks for listening to PWNA. You can follow us on Twitter at PWNAPOD. We're also on Facebook. We talk about a lot of this here stuff that we talk on the podcast. We talk on Facebook, lots of conversing and everything. You can go to facebook.com/BC Pastor. And then, obviously, we'd love for you to go to iTunes, leave us a rating for Christmas. I'll tell you what, give us a Christmas present by leaving us a rating or a comment. Tell us how much you love this podcast. We really would appreciate it. But most of all, we thank you for joining the discussion by just listening. And for those of you that do correspond with us, we love hearing from you on Facebook and Twitter. We will see y'all, or actually, you will hear us next week.